My brother got a $200,000 gift to start his life. I got kicked out for coming home late from a shift at Denny's. 3 years later, he called me ma'am in a meeting because I was his boss. If this story hits something in your heart, stay with me till the end. And if it speaks to you, don't forget to support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing. This one's personal. My name is Lena Carson. I was 19 when everything fell apart. I had been working double shifts at Denny's, saving every penny I could. My parents didn't help with anything, not my college plans, not even gas money. But I never complained. I thought maybe one day they'd see my efforts. Evan, my older brother, was the favorite. He didn't work a single job, didn't clean a single dish. Yet one day, my parents surprised him with $200,000 to start his life. A condo, a new car, even some money for a business idea he never followed through. I smiled through it, even though my chest burned. I kept thinking maybe my turn would come. Then came the night I got off late from a long shift. I walked home tired, feet sore, smelling like grease and coffee. But when I opened the door, I didn't see my room. I saw my bags packed. My mom stood there with folded arms. My dad wouldn't even look at me. "You came home too late. You clearly don't respect our rules," my mom said. I was too tired to fight, too shocked to cry. I had $84 in my pocket and a cracked phone. I walked out into the night with nowhere to go. I slept in a friend's car for a few days, worked extra shifts, took showers at gas stations. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. I felt ashamed, like it was my fault. But I swore to myself that I'd never go crawling back. That was the beginning of a new life, the kind you build from broken pieces. I didn't know it then, but getting kicked out was the push I needed to become someone stronger, someone they'd never see coming. And one day, 3 years later, Evan would walk into a meeting room, see me at the head of the table, and say, "Good morning, ma'am," not even realizing who I was. But that part comes later. After I got kicked out, I had nowhere to go. I didn't cry right away. I didn't scream. I just walked until my legs hurt. Then I texted my coworker, Jenna, and asked if I could crash in her car for a couple of nights. She didn't ask questions, just gave me the key and said, "Lock up when you sleep." That little red Honda Civic became my home. I curled up in the back seat with my jacket over me, listening to cars pass by. It was cold, especially at night. I used gas station bathrooms to wash up, face, armpits, change of clothes in my backpack. I sprayed myself with cheap perfume and showed up to my morning shift like nothing was wrong. At Denny's, I worked 3 shifts in a row some days. I wiped tables, served coffee, smiled through the exhaustion. I had blisters on my feet and burns on my wrists from hot plates. But I never told anyone. Not Jenna, not my manager, not even the older lady who always tipped me $5 no matter what. Meanwhile, Evan was living the dream. He posted photos of his new condo, marble countertops, a giant TV, designer furniture. He took mirror selfies next to the new car mom and dad bought him. "Family is everything," his caption read. I almost laughed. Family meant something different to me now. It meant abandonment. It meant being left behind. One night, after a 12-hour shift, I bought a $2 slice of pizza from a 24-hour corner shop. It was old, cold, and barely edible. I sat behind the building, next to the dumpster, and ate it in silence. The smell of trash didn't even bother me anymore. I just wanted something in my stomach. That was my lowest moment. I felt invisible, like I didn't matter to anyone. I promised myself that night I would never beg them. Not my parents. Not Evan. I'd rather sleep on floors and eat garbage food than ask for a dime. Pride? Maybe. But it kept me going. Then one morning, something strange happened. A man in his late 40s came in, wearing a plain black coat and a baseball cap. He sat in my section and ordered black coffee. He looked tired but kind. I served him like I served everyone, polite, quick, no fuss. But when he asked for the check, he said something that made me pause. "You work like someone who's been through a lot." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You don't waste time. You read the room. You watch everything. That's not normal for someone your age." I didn't know what to say. He slid his card across the table. "My name's Marcus Ellison. I run a small logistics company. It's messy, hard, and full of problems. But I think someone like you could fix things." I thought it was a joke. I even laughed. But he was serious. He gave me his business card and said, "Think about it. I don't offer this to just anyone." That night, sitting on a motel floor with my backpack as a pillow, I stared at that card for hours. Marcus Ellison. Maybe this was the chance I had been waiting for. I didn't know what the job would lead to. I just knew one thing. Anything was better than pretending I was okay when I wasn't. So the next morning, I called him. And just like that, my life started to change. When I first walked into Marcus Ellison's office, I didn't know what to expect. The place looked nothing like the glass buildings downtown. It was an old warehouse-turned-office, filled with noisy printers, ringing phones, and people running around with clipboards. The company was called Fleet Spark Logistics, and from the looks of it, Things weren't going smoothly. Marcus met me at the door with a clipboard and a coffee. "You're late," he said, even though I was 15 minutes early. That's when I knew he wasn't the warm, soft kind of guy. He was sharp, blunt, and all business. But he gave me a shot. That was more than anyone else had done. My job. Everything. I answered phones, cleaned supply closets, scheduled deliveries, tracked drivers, and sometimes even helped load trucks. I didn't complain. I was just grateful. I stayed late every day, sometimes until midnight. When the buses stopped running and I couldn't get home, I'd curl up under my desk with a hoodie and sleep on the carpet. Marcus noticed everything. He never said much, but I'd catch him glancing at my desk at 7 p.m., eyebrows raised like he was silently asking, "Still here?" One day, he walked up to me while I was fixing a messed-up delivery route. "You fixed 3 errors in 5 minutes, he said. I shrugged. They were obvious. He tilted his head. "Not to everyone. Come with me." That was the first day he started mentoring me. He showed me the back end of the business: warehouse mapping, cost breakdowns, customer contracts. He even let me sit in on vendor calls. It was like getting a crash course in running a company, and I soaked it all in like a sponge. Weeks turned into months. I learned how to negotiate with suppliers, how to read spreadsheets upside down, and how to say no without sounding rude. Marcus was tough, but he respected work ethic. He taught me that leadership wasn't about being loud. It was about being clear, consistent, and confident. One night, I stayed behind to finish a proposal we had to submit by morning. Marcus walked by and saw me still typing. "Don't you sleep?" "Sometimes," I joked. He paused, then said quietly, "You don't have to prove anything to me, Lee. You've already earned your seat at the table." I didn't say anything, but those words hit deep. No one had ever said that to me before. That night, I didn't sleep under the desk. I sat in the break room and cried. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I wasn't the forgotten daughter or the invisible waitress. I was someone worth teaching, someone who mattered. Marcus wasn't just a boss. He became the mentor I never knew I needed. He didn't look away when he saw a girl who'd lost everything. He gave me work, but more than that, he gave me belief. And I was determined not to waste it. 3 years passed. It felt like both a blink and a lifetime. Fleet Spark wasn't just running, it was thriving. With Marcus's mentorship and my nonstop hustle, we had transformed the messy logistics startup into a cutting-edge transport tech company. We built new systems, cut costs, signed big clients, and even attracted investors. People started calling us the Uber of logistics. And eventually, Marcus called me into his office with a quiet smile and said, "I'm retiring. I want you to run this." I didn't cry. I just nodded and said, "Okay." But when I got home that night, I sat alone in my small apartment and stared at the walls for hours. I had worked so hard for this. No shortcuts, no help, no family cheering me on. Just grit. The next morning, I went to the courthouse and legally changed my name. Lena Carson was gone. Lena Grant was born. It wasn't just about cutting ties. It was about starting over, clean. No more baggage, no more being the forgotten one. I didn't know the Carsons anything, not even the name they gave me. My office now had windows and a view of the city. I wore suits, ran meetings, and signed paychecks. People called me ma'am, boss, or Ms. Grant. I still worked long hours, but I wasn't sleeping under desks anymore. I had power. I had earned it. Every week, on my way to the main distribution center, I drove past my old neighborhood. I could see the peeling paint on the front porch of my childhood home. Sometimes the curtains would move, like someone was watching. But I never stopped. Not once. Then, one Monday morning, my secretary knocked on my door. "We've got a new junior hire starting today," she said, flipping through her notes. "Evan Carson, logistics intern." I froze. At first, I thought I misheard. I asked her to repeat it. "Evan Carson," she said again, not noticing my face. "He's got some college credits and a family referral. Want me to bring him up later?" I said nothing. I just nodded. An hour later, he walked into my conference room, the same room where I'd once cried over spreadsheets and delivery errors. He was older, a little worn out, but still had that same confident walk. He didn't recognize me. Of course, why would he? New name, new look, new life. I didn't say a word. I let him sit through orientation like everyone else. He introduced himself to the team, flashed his usual smile, and pretended to know more than he did. I watched from my office window, silent, arms crossed. Evan Carson, my brother, the golden boy. The reason I slept in a car, now reporting to me, and he didn't even know it yet. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel hate. I just felt ready. This was no accident. Life had brought him to my door. The same boy who once got a $200,000 gift while I got kicked out with nothing. And now, he'd work under the name he never cared to remember. Mine. Evan walked into the office like he owned it. He wore a shiny blazer, cologne strong enough to choke a horse, and a smile that didn't belong in a place where people actually worked. I stood near the glass doors of the executive floor, watching him from behind a pane of silence. He had no clue who I was. Why would he? I wasn't the tired teenager with greasy hair and cheap sneakers anymore. Now I was Lena Grant, sharp haircut, pressed suit, and the authority to fire anyone in the building, including the golden boy himself. He strutted into his first team meeting, made a few lame jokes, and talked about how he knew the industry. Claimed he was here to bring fresh energy. I listened from the corner of the room, arms crossed, face blank. He didn't even glance my way. I didn't say a word until the meeting ended. Later that day, I called my department head. "Put Evan Carson on Team Epsilon," I said. He looked confused. "That's the entry-level routing team. They handle the worst shifts." "I know," I said. "Put him under direct review. I'll oversee his performance myself." Team Epsilon wasn't glamorous. It was spreadsheets, delivery reroutes, missing driver calls, 3 a.m. complaints, and broken air conditioners in warehouse trucks. No Instagram moments there. Just pure, dirty, thankless work. When Evan saw the assignment, he blinked. "There must be some mistake," he said to the coordinator. "I was told I'd be working closer to product strategy. I have ideas." "You'll start here," the coordinator replied. "Everyone does." I watched him from the hallway that week. He was lost. He didn't know how to read the logistics dashboard, couldn't handle the software, and clearly had no patience for warehouse calls. On the third day, he stormed out of a training session and muttered, "This is beneath me." That's when I stepped in. "Mr. Carson," I said coldly from the doorway of the staff room. He turned, surprised. Yes? I heard you're having trouble adjusting." He straightened his back, trying to recover. "Well, I just feel like my skills might be more useful in a higher level." I cut him off. "You don't have skills. You have assumptions. You're not special here. You work or you leave." His mouth opened slightly, stunned. I could see it in his eyes. He was used to getting his way. Used to people saying yes. But not here. Not under me. Still, he didn't recognize me. Not yet. By the end of the week, Evan looked tired. The glow was fading. He stayed late trying to fix a delivery mess-up and got scolded by a supervisor when he missed a return deadline. He didn't talk so loudly anymore. Didn't brag in meetings. I didn't comfort him. I didn't help. I watched him struggle the way I once did, except I didn't have a safety net or a soft landing. He had no idea who was pulling the strings behind his slow fall. But he would soon. By the second week, Evan started to notice something wasn't quite right. At first, he brushed it off, the way his team avoided chatting with him during lunch, the way people stiffened when I walked into a room. It didn't fit the picture he had in his head of how the office should be. He probably thought it would be casual, friendly, maybe even a little glamorous. But this wasn't a playground. It was my empire. And around here, people called me the Ice Queen. Evan heard it whispered once, probably in the break room or during a warehouse walkthrough. "She doesn't smile. She's brilliant but brutal. If you mess up, she'll shred your report and hand it back to you before your coffee cools." He didn't understand it. Why was everyone so afraid of one woman? Still, he didn't put the pieces together. Not even when I walked into his meetings, said nothing, and left without a glance in his direction. Not even when I corrected his numbers in front of the whole team, sliding his spreadsheet back across the table with a simple, "Try again." Not even when I handed him the ugliest assignments, late-night delivery audits, warehouse call reviews, mislabeled inventory reports. He tried to stay confident, but the cracks started showing. I could see it, the frustration in his eyes, the clenched jaw, the forced grin he gave people to act like he was fine. But he wasn't. He was slipping, and I was watching every second of it. One day, I handed him a thick folder, a 10-hour audit for a chain of failed deliveries in the Southwest region. It was mind-numbing work. No automation. Just him, a highlighter, and 172 pages of chaos. "This can't be real," he said, flipping through the mess. I didn't even look up. "It's due by 8 a.m. He sat in the corner of the office all day, barely speaking, typing notes and triple-checking numbers. At 7:48 p.m., he marched into my office and slammed the report on my desk. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "I came here to build strategy, not clean up someone else's mess." I looked up slowly, not surprised. "You think you're above the mess?" I asked. "I think I'm better than pushing paper around like some intern," he shot back. A silence settled between us. Then I smiled. It wasn't warm or friendly. It was cold and sharp, the kind of smile that said, "I know something you don't." And he still didn't see it. Still didn't recognize the girl he left behind. The sister who once scrubbed floors while he played video games. The girl who ate cold pizza by a dumpster while he bragged about his new condo online. He was blind, even when I stood right in front of him. So I leaned back in my chair and said, "If the work's beneath you, you're welcome to leave." He didn't move. Good. That meant he was starting to understand. Not who I was, not yet, but that this world didn't bend for him. That here, titles meant nothing, and effort meant everything. That here, Lena Grant wasn't someone to be underestimated. And the best part? The more he struggled, the more satisfying it became. Because soon, he was going to learn exactly whose shadow he'd been working under all along. It was nearly 9 p.m., and the office was quiet. Most of the staff had gone home hours ago. But Evan was still there, sleeves rolled up, rubber gloves on, cleaning out the office fridge. Moldy containers, sticky shelves, unclaimed yogurt cups. It wasn't glamorous work. It was a punishment, assigned after he failed to meet a critical audit deadline. One too many excuses, one too many missed details. And I was done going easy on him. He had argued, of course. Said it was beneath him. Said it was embarrassing. But I didn't budge. I just handed him gloves and said, "Clock out when it's clean." As I sat in my office, finishing up budget reports, I could hear him groaning softly as he opened some expired tuna salad. I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Not yet. Then it happened. He stepped into my office with the garbage bag still in hand, looking for a place to dump it. That's when he saw the photo on my desk. I didn't notice at first. I was too focused on my screen. But when I looked up, his face had gone pale. He stood completely still, staring at the framed picture like he'd seen a ghost. It was a small photo, just a snapshot, old and faded. A girl with a ponytail and a toothy grin, standing next to a boy in a baseball cap. They were about 7 and 10 years old, brother and sister. Before the distance, before the favoritism, before everything fell apart. I hadn't looked at that picture in months. But I kept it on my desk to remind myself of who I was, of what I survived. Evan held the trash bag tighter, his jaw tensed. That's us, he finally said, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't respond. I just kept typing. He stepped closer, looking between me and the photo. "Lena?" His voice cracked. "Lena Carson?" I paused, slowly looking up. No smile. No emotion. Just a steady stare. He searched my face like he was seeing it for the first time. Oh my God. He backed away like the room had shifted around him. His breathing changed. He looked like someone who had just remembered something horrible from a dream, only now realizing it had been real all along. "I didn't know," he said softly. "I swear. I didn't know it was you." I said nothing. I let the silence do the work. "I thought you were gone," he went on. "We thought you left. Mom and Dad." I cut him off, not with words, but with a glance. Sharp. Final. He opened his mouth again, but this time no sound came out. The next morning, he was at the office before sunrise. No cologne. No flashy blazer. Just a wrinkled button-down, and the look of someone who hadn't slept all night. He stood at my office door and whispered, "I'm sorry." I didn't move. Didn't nod. Didn't blink. He stepped closer, voice shaking. "You didn't deserve any of it. What they did. What I didn't do. I was stupid. I was late," I said, checking my watch. "Meeting starts in 5. He hesitated, then lowered his eyes and walked away. He had recognized me, and now, finally, he understood what he had lost. Not just a sister, but the chance to be a decent one. But recognition doesn't undo the past. And regret, it's just the beginning. Evan waited outside my office for an hour. He kept glancing at the floor, fidgeting with his hands, pacing back and forth. I saw it all through the glass. I didn't say anything. I let him wait. When I finally opened the door, he looked up, eyes already red. "Please," he said. I need 5 minutes." I stepped aside and nodded toward the chair across from my desk. 5 minutes. He sat down like he was carrying something heavy on his back. He didn't look like the confident guy who had walked into the office weeks ago, bragging about strategy and fresh ideas. That guy was gone. "I know it's too late," he said quietly, "but I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I let the silence sit between us. I didn't know what happened to you after you left," he continued. "They told me you ran away, that you wanted nothing to do with us. I believed them. I didn't ask questions. I should have. I was stupid. I stayed quiet, waiting." He rubbed his face. Things aren't good at home. The condo's gone. Dad's been sick, heart issues. Mom's working nights now at a factory in Dayton. They lost everything. They talk about you sometimes now. Like maybe they were too hard on you." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "Now they think that." Evan nodded slowly. "I know it's not enough. Saying sorry doesn't fix anything. But I want you to know that I'm not proud of who I was back then." I stared at him, expression unreadable. Then I finally spoke. "You want to talk about who we were?" He looked up. "You got $200,000 and a condo. I got a bag in the front door," I said, voice calm and sharp. "You got applause for doing nothing. I got punished for trying to survive." His face fell. "You want to say sorry now because life hit you in the face," I continued. "But where were you when I was sleeping in a friend's car? Taking showers at gas stations? Where were you when I walked past our house every week, wondering if anyone ever missed me?" He said nothing. "You didn't ask questions because you didn't want answers. You didn't care. Not until your world started to fall apart." He looked down at his hands. You want to know what happened to me? I said. I built an empire. I built it from nothing. No help. No family. Just grit. And now you work for me. He swallowed hard. I'm not going to fire you, I said. That would be too easy. You'll stay. You'll work. And you'll earn every single cent, just like I did. No favors. No shortcuts. Just grind. He nodded slowly, his voice barely audible. Okay. I stood up. Meeting in 10 minutes. Don't be late again. He got up and left the room quietly, shoulders heavy. I stared at the door after it closed. He wanted forgiveness. But some things aren't given, they're earned. Just like everything I have now. The week before Thanksgiving, Evan knocked on my office door with a strange look in his eyes, hesitant, nervous, almost hopeful. Can we talk? He asked. I closed my laptop and leaned back. Make it quick. He stepped inside, holding a folded piece of paper. His hands were shaking slightly. It's from Mom, he said, placing the paper on my desk like it might explode. She asked me to give it to you. She wants you to come home for Thanksgiving. I didn't touch it. She said she made your favorite, sweet potato casserole. Said things haven't been the same without you. He gave a weak smile. She even asked me to cook this year. I raised an eyebrow. You cook now. He laughed quietly. I tried. It went bad. Really bad. I didn't laugh. I just thought maybe it could be a start. He turned and left the room, leaving the letter on my desk. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't open it right away. I worked through the rest of the day like it wasn't there, checking reports, reviewing team logs, signing off on delivery routes. But the envelope stayed in the corner of my vision, begging for attention. That night, in my apartment, I finally opened it. The handwriting was familiar. My mother's. It started with, I don't know if you hate us, and ended with, we miss our daughter. I read it once. Then again. Then I folded it back up and dropped it in the trash. Some letters come too late. Thanksgiving morning, the city was quiet. No traffic. No emails. Just the low hum of the building's heat system and the smell of leftover takeout from the night before. I ordered Chinese food and brought it to the office. Sat at my desk in sweats and slippers, chopsticks in one hand, a spreadsheet in the other. Evan's numbers had improved. I couldn't deny it. He was working harder, showing up early, staying late, asking questions instead of pretending he already knew everything. He'd stopped wearing flashy clothes. He kept his head down, got things done. There was effort. There was even humility. But trust? Trust is a slow thing. It's not rebuilt with one letter, or a holiday meal, or a few good weeks. Trust is a wall, and when it's been broken down brick by brick, you don't rebuild it with words. You rebuild it with time. So I sat there, chewing lo mein at my desk, watching the numbers roll in. I thought about the girl who once begged for love in that house. The girl who was told to leave because she came home too late. The girl who ate cold pizza next to a dumpster while her family sat around a holiday table pretending she didn't exist. I took another bite. No one gets to rewrite history just because they feel bad now. Regret doesn't undo choices. Maybe one day I'll walk through that front door again. But not today. Today, I have work to do. 2 years passed quietly. The tension between Evan and me never fully disappeared, but it changed. He worked hard, harder than I ever expected. He stopped trying to prove anything with words and let his actions speak. Slowly, without asking for credit or praise, he became someone I could rely on. Not as a brother, but as an employee. So when the operations manager left, and I had to choose someone new to lead the department, I didn't hesitate. I promoted Evan. Not out of love, not out of forgiveness, but because he earned it. When I called him into my office and told him, he looked surprised, grateful, a little emotional even. He thanked me, quietly, sincerely, and went back to work. No dramatic hug. No we're family again moment. Just respect. A small, heavy thing that had taken years to build. We still didn't talk much outside of the office. No long conversations. No holidays together. But the silence between us wasn't angry anymore. Just distant. Calm. Like two people who had once lived in the same house, but remembered it differently. Meanwhile, the company kept growing. We expanded into new states, hired more staff, partnered with city programs. One day, a reporter asked me why our company had started sponsoring shelters for homeless youth. Why we were building partnerships with organizations that gave kids a second chance. I just smiled and said, someone once gave me a shot. That's all I needed to say. Every spring, I drive to the mountains to visit Marcus. He lives in a small cabin now, peaceful and quiet, always with a cup of black coffee in hand. We sit on the porch and talk about everything, the company, life, growth, regrets, peace. He never once asks about my family. He knows better. Marcus didn't just give me a job. He gave me belief when I had none. He gave me room to grow, fail, get up and rise. He treated me like someone worth teaching, not because of my name, but because of my effort. He's the only father figure I ever needed. As for my parents, I don't visit. I don't write. I don't look back. Forgiveness is a personal journey, but forgetting? That's never been part of mine. I remember who locked the door behind me, and I remember who opened one when I had nowhere else to go. In the end, family isn't who shares your blood. It's who sees your worth, even when you're invisible. What about you? Would you have done what Lena did? Or would you have gone back home and tried to make things right? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if stories like this speak to you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new one.